we dive into the discussions of today, we do a round of introductions. My name is Meshak Mgangi, the Director of Membership and Alumni Relations at Young African Leaders Forum. We can do an introduction of the four of us on this platform. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, am I going? Or
Yes, please go on.
okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Osadebamin Ansel Ahabwe Itwa. Yes, I am, or sorry, Ansel Osadebamin Ahabwe Itwa. Uh, I am a graduate of, I'm here in my capacity as a graduate of Georgia Institute of Technology's Masters of Sustainable Energy and Environmental Management program. And that's where I learned to tackle environmental problems and environmental impacts. And I've had a long history in at YELF. I was the with Dennis Munene. I was the co-editor for the 10th anniversary magazine for YELF, and so I have my editorial there. I've been with YELF for about a year now. I've also had a long, strong, in a relationship with Pan-Africanism. When I was 16, I won the uh, Canaan Award, and I was awarded by the former Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Osinbajo, when I was 16, and when I was 23, I created no, when I was 23, I posted, a translations of Wole Soyinka's work and and Ngugi wa Thiong'o's work uh, in Esan, in my home language. And so, yeah, that's basically who I am. Yeah, I have a long history as a researcher for for an initiative based in Georgia called Drawdown Georgia, which is a statewide initiative of businesses and and other groups that are trying to put together trying to have the state of Georgia meet its carbon mitigation needs, cutting carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. So I'm a researcher, a translator, a writer in my spare time, and also a dedicated Pan-Africanist.
Thank you so much, Ahabwe Itua, for that wonderful introduction. We can go to our Vice President, Dennis Munene.
Yes, greetings, comrades, from wherever you are listening in or you're tuning in from this evening, this morning, or this afternoon. My name is Dennis Monene. I serve with the Young African Leaders Forum as the Vice President, Programs and Development, and just delighted for this month's podcasts and its essential role to the development of the young leaders within the continent. So I'll be in and listening as we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for that great introduction that you've given to us. And we are proud to be logged in all in these deliberations from Kenya. Both Munene and I are from Kenya, the East Africa part of the continent. And for today, we are diving into the pivotal role of African youth in championing sustainable development and environmental justice. And Ansel, uh, I am aware that you are an environmental professional. You are into
Yeah.
sustainable development. And this is a topic that you can speak from the heart. Uh, our deliberations are more of the solutions we need from the US. you can really resonate with us. You can understand and tell us and discuss from the soul how Mother Africa, how the continent that you love, would uh, would move in the next direction in this topic. So welcome and have a discussion with us on the same. Thank you.
Yes, well, first, to talk about yes, I'd love to talk about the environmental, issues. My project, my talking points are, first to bring a role to the mechanisms of environmental action as perpetrated by governments and perpetrated by, non-profit actors and by for-profit actors, in America, in America and the world, and to see the history of developing, the history of global climate action and, efforts for sustainable development, from the Brundtland Report, all the way through the Kyoto, like the Accords, to through Montreal Accords to the Paris Agreement. So yeah. So I have, I'm very, well spoken of in those terms. Uh, yeah, the nature of carbon credits and the nature of that. Yeah, and of how, African youths can organize themselves to push for relevant action in their countries. Yeah.
Thank you for that quite introduction into the topic that we are having today. Mr. Ansel, you've mentioned something about the carbon credit. Do you feel that in the sustainable development route that carbon credits are what Africa deserves at the expense of industrialization, sustainable industries that can utilize even the nuclear energy uh, or alternative sources of energy that do not add into the carbon footprint for a continent? Is it a fair deal for
Oh, yes, I think that there are, yes, I think so. I think that first we have to, delve into, what carbon credits are, for the layman audience, so that African youth are fully informed as to why companies, seek them out and how what they're getting out of it and how it impacts Africa's development. So a carbon credit is the trading of a carbon emission amongst parties. So a corporation that produces carbon emissions through its economic functions, is aware of this and wants to sort of the offset the emissions produced by the operations of that business. So what they do is that they purchase and purchase sort of implements that make up for the loss of a company. Uh, excuse me, can we go again? I'm I uh I can talk about this, but I'm honestly um yeah, I need to compose myself. Yeah. But yeah, I can talk about this now. But can you please give me uh 2-3 minutes?
It's all right. It's all right.
Okay, thank you.
As Lydia, you're part of us in this discussion, and as we deliberate sustainable development for Africa and this what we call environmental justice. Is justice really being done? And as African youth, are we playing the right role or are we in the route towards the right place that we need to play as youth? You know that in Africa, 60%, around 60% are youth. Youth, it's a youthful population. So how do you feel? What is our place? That we are more than half the population of Africa. So as Ansel gets back to us, we can hear from our member. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mishak. And I actually support the fact that the youth are, I think, even more than 60%. And is that now the environment is not at the place that I feel it should be. So if only we got kind of, let me say, ways on which we can protect it, we could be in a better place maybe in the near future to come.
Thank you so much. As we continue to engage on this, we are speaking from the perspective of Kenya, the perspective of Africa, and the perspective of us as youth who are Africans. And we know that the continent is ours. As we go into the African Union Agenda 2063, environment matters. As we look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, our environment is one of the things that are key to attaining this. And we must guard it with all it takes. So we may need to challenge ourselves to go a bit deeper and think about our future as a continent and as a world. When Africa is healthy, the rest of the world is healthy. And as we go the sustainable route, we might also need to think about exploring the real potential or the optimum potential of our continent in developing sustainable solutions for our environment and ensuring that environmental justice is adhered to. So, Ansel, are you back? Welcome. Yeah, as we get Ansel back on, we had our other guest who was Aaron Mutama. He has not been able to join us, and uh, to join us due to some engagements that that he is having. So as we talk on this topic, we can think in the African direction, and as we think of it, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to think and reflect on our role and look deeper into ourselves as we go into the next phase of our legacy as Young African Leaders Forum. We remember that last year in November we celebrated our 10 years anniversary as Young African Leaders Forum, and under the key highlight from potential to impact, the impact in the next 10 years of YAF is what we are looking at. And that's why we have these serious discussions around young Africans and youths of Africa in development and environmental justice, because these two aspects go together. And as we look at development, is it sustainable? Is it cognizant of the environmental needs that we have? And I think that Ansel is back. I welcome you. You may have
Yeah,
the mic.
okay. Yes, I'm back. So I want to start by, focusing, but first by defining sustainable development, what it is like specifically. So in 1987, the former Prime Minister of Norway, Gro Brundtland, she was the head of a UN, special commission for sustainable, for development. And so this was, at a point where the Cold War was winding down, and so, all the countries in the world were convening on the both the necessity of creating economic development and also greater awareness of real environmental problems. This was the period of Chernobyl, and of the Exxon Valdez crash. So knowledge about like and not to mention Rachel Carson's work you know with uh, with CFCs and speaking on Silent Spring, like in her book Silent Spring, the creation of the EPA in the United States in the 1970s. So there was widespread awareness that economic development, had many negative externalities, for environmental impact, and so it was decided by by companies. It was decided by everyone to to a define economic development in a way that was not harmful, overly harmful to the environment. And so what they came up with was the concept of sustainable development. And sustainable development, and to put it succinctly, is the development that meets the needs of the present without without the ability to damage the future need generation. And so yeah, what that means is that when we build, it is conscious of the needs of the generations that will come after us. So in a sense, the definition of sustainable development is one that involves youth activities and necessitates youth involvement. And so, I believe very firmly that Africa's development, we are basically the last continent in the world to really reach that economic development. And yet and the nature of our economic development right now is, resource intensive, is based on resources extraction and low carbon activities. And so there is, lots of pressure from state actors, from nonprofit actors, and from you and from state and nonprofit actors alike on how to, to go forward in a path for how Africa can go forward in creating and developing its economies, while maintaining, attaining its environmental resources. And so yeah, and so there are, many, there's a long history of like I said in the beginning, a long history of environmental, uh, of environmental initiatives, uh, chosen by United Nations, countries and frameworks and conventions on climate change that that create our future, to create our possibilities now. And I'll leave it to you, Mishak.
Thank you so much for such a great, insightful provocations from even the United Nations conventions, deliberations, and drawing out of great works that have been done by even the pioneers of sustainable development. And as we think deeper, we can even look at eco-Pan-Africanism, something that it's a modern manifestation of Pan-Africanism that is integrated in the environmental sustainability in the field that you're very well conversant with, which is sustainable energy. I would love to even ask a simple thing that in Africa, we know that most of our power generation is not that sustainable. We are yet to tap into the full potential of our continent, going into the renewable energy and all that kinds of sources of energy. Uh, can we, young people, how do you feel that young people can chart the way forward, can be the source of an inspiration for a generation that goes the sustainable, the clean energy, the green energy way? In the context of Georgia, do you feel that solutions that are there can even apply to us? And do you feel that Africans, all of us on the continent and in the diaspora, we want to tap into your inspiration and understand exactly how can we take our continent the right way? Yeah, you can highlight, just throw some light to us about such.
Yes, I can answer that. So I feel that the youth around the world, we're experiencing a loss of faith right now, and so in our leaders and in our that we're really meeting the climate crisis, and so we also do not have widespread trust in institutions can uh, that can handle this climate crisis, and that we do not feel that our institutions represent us, and that so additionally, social mobility, even in rich industrialized countries like the United States, is low for us. And so, we feel stuck in a way. We feel that we don't have, political power or economic power. And so, compounded with that is the crisis of climate anxiety. And so, climate anxiety, it's, the sensations of helplessness and worry due to the effect of the climate crisis on our economy and our political systems. And so, that leads to, helpless actions like doom scrolling or serving, doom scrolling, or just general anxiety that could even lead to serious mental health issues. Based on on feeling that our governments and our business leaders and our positions of power are not doing enough to solve the climate crisis. And so, because in Africa, it's worse than we have in so-called global north. The countries, industrialized countries of Western Europe or of Europe, of and of Northern America and of Eastern Asia. We because the global South, they have the most exploitation by extractive corporations, and so they contribute the most to anthropogenic climate change. And so we also suffer the brunt of the extreme weather conditions, for rising sea levels, especially in areas like Bangladesh or Vietnam, and decimation of crops, increased days of heat, of extreme heat, and which leads to heat stroke, and of pollution in our cities, and finally of wildfires. So there are many health and health psychological issues, leading to increased conflicts between peoples and between states, and it's all precipitated by by our government's inaction of climate change. And so, what I feel that you know what I feel that youth can do is they can organize politically and organize just and learn from different groups that around the world. In America, we have a movement called the Sunrise Movement, and it is a movement of young people. I believe the cutoff is 35. And they're trying to win, to influence our government to pass a Green New Deal. If you've heard of that, in in the 2020s, the Biden administration passed the Inflation Reduction Act that created, thousands of thousands of green jobs, and it pushed for green, investment in our economy. In effect, pushing green sustainable development for a first world industrialized country. And so that we did that by building people power and political power, and testing electoral candidates on their action for green, on their stance on environmental actions, and using grassroots political organization, and using protests, and in the United States, and by practicing organization of labor unions, organization of classmates and community leaders, and directing everybody to the environmental cause, so that something like the Sunrise Movement should be studied by African groups, and replicated there, as it is a very successful grassroots organization that has the backing of many congressional candidates, like I believe are Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. I believe that she is a member of the Sunrise Movement, and so it's very successful that we pushed this sort of legislation through the United States. Yeah. And so that is the biggest thing that African youth can do. The other thing is to incorporate environmental, impact, like assessments, like incorporate sustainable thinking into the future. Like how thinking globally, and thinking like locally, and tackling environmental issues that are local, and that's how I feel, what I feel can happen. Yeah. So back to you, Misha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ansel, for such a great, insightful words, and you really opening our thinking. I want to recognize the presence of our Vice President, Operations, Governance and Operations. Vice President, please greet the floor, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. To some of us, it's a good afternoon. To some of our friends in the United States, it's a good evening. It's good afternoon also. I'm glad to see you here today discussing this noble topic, especially for climate key issue that has been a problem facing African continent right now. I do expect our discussion here to be of more concrete, that will come up some solution and some advice to recommend to our policymakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vice President. We've heard Ansel talk about green thinking because our policies have been borrowing so much on different thinking and schools of thought. But I hear a new thing and a beautiful one, that as we think policies, environmental justice, as we think policies of development, which is sustainable, we must have green thinking behind every idea that sees the light of the day. So at this point, I would invite our members on the platform. That is Dennis Monene, the Vice President, then Lydia, who can give a small, if we have a question to our speaker today, who is answer, we can ask, and feel free to contribute. And if you hear a point that needs to touches you, and you feel that there is a solution towards such an issue that has been raised, we can really contribute to that. So I kindly open the floor for you to ask a question or two to our speaker.
Thank you so much, Meshach and our comrade Ansel, even on how you're taking it and the contribution that are very concrete in regards to what we ought to do as the young people of Africa and the people of African descent. So I think that has been very, very concrete. My just is not a question, but just also to touch a small bit in regards to the topic that we're discussing here. And to the many young people who are listening or watching or wherever they're watching from, I think there's been a key thing in regards to the sustainability part of it, where we're seeing many young people really engaging, vibrant, and really committing into the sustainability of our nations. So we're seeing many young people participating in tree planting events, um, reforestation, and I think this is one thing that really requires a lot of support by our fellow African leaders, and as well to keep on mobilizing the young people to ensure that our continent doesn't we doesn't suffer from the issue of carbon credits or from the issue of maybe younger rate on, because we are actually surrounded by oceans, and all these oceans we have also a key role to protect them. And waters in regards to geography, waters is a very vital thing for every African nation. And we as young people, we have a role to ensure that at least we are participating, even if it's cleanup activities to ensure that our rivers are also clean, our lakes, we can be able to participate fully when it comes to maybe mangrove replanting, we can be able to do that, and so many other things that will be able to contribute to regeneration of our environment, and also to ensure that this is our time as we are here, and we are not going to live here forever. But what we have to do is to ensure that we are making some impact for future generations, because some people came before us and they were able to do this, and that's why we met. Still, there's some good environment in as much as some places are deteriorating. We can be able to reclaim it. So I think that's what I needed to add on, Meshach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Munene, for such. And as you've highlighted, I'm even proposing a bold step for us, YAF members in Nairobi. We can organize a meetup and do some cleanup for one or two towns within the city, or some satellite towns that we have, and do a kind of a CSR activity for as YAF members. So as we talk sustainability and environmental justice, even that would add into that. So Ansel, your parting shot, or as we close the discussion, I know
Yeah, I
we
have
may.
a lot to say actually. Yeah. First of all, on carbon credits, I think it goes beyond thinking about small it goes beyond like small issues of cleanup. I think it goes beyond directly impacting and forming climate movements that works on sensible policy. Now, I am not one of those people who suggest that Africa should forego its national development in service of what we might say green colonialism. If there's a good interview that we should all listen to of the president of Guyana, Irfan I Ali, and he's confronted by this BBC reporter, and he's asking, and the BBC reporter is asking for the president, why are you building this like why are you building this oil refinery? Why are you producing oil, in this country where we're suffering a climate crisis? And of course, the untold, hypocrisy of that is that, he comes from a country that is very industrialized, that where per capita carbon emissions are very high compared to areas in the global south. So I want to make a distinction between that and the other thing, between that and environmental development, because if you there's a quote I'm trying to look for by Walter Rodney, but he talks about how in the past, uh, you know mass buy-ins of in Africa's land, has been used, in the name of environmental protection, but has not been fruitful, which has actually, impeded Africa's, development, because it came at the expense of production of African peasants. And so, we have to, you have to design, and so it's up to, the youth and youth legislatures to design a plan that is, inclusive of the real needs of Africa's peasants, of Africa's small landholders, and of Africa's working class, especially, and especially the needs of African pastoralists. Because if you don't know, if you may not be aware, but in Tanzania, there has been a real crisis because of the Maasai people. They were evicted from their age-old pastoralist lands due to the buy-in of Emirati businessmen, businessmen from the United Arab Emirates. And so that was a serious, problem that was aided and abetted by Tanzania's authoritarian, quasi one-party state government. And that is a serious problem for the Africans. That is an immediate problem that I feel Africans should focus on, like, right now, because they were evicted from Ngorongoro, a conservation area, you know just and so this is not environmental justice, even if it even in the veneer of carbon credits. And so what I was going to say on carbon credits was that in Tanzania, in Zambia, we see rich businessmen who are foreign businessmen who buy up so much African land that it impedes, Africa's, ability to commit to real development. And so, Africa's energy consumption per person is so low compared to that in the global north, that it that and there's no way that economic development could even happen without increasing and without increasing that that energy consumption. There's no way around it. So we should be very considerate and concerned of the global north, hypocrisy in telling the global south to decrease carbon emissions, or to maintain lesser efficient uses of fuel, such as firewood fuel, which the U.S. has been doing for a while. They've been telling African countries, not to use oil and gas in exchange for carbon fuel. But this is very, very ignorant of our realities. Very ignorant of our reality in Africa, like, where we need to economically develop, but we also need to be considerate of future generations and of the youth. And so the key to this is, participation, and saying no to forced eviction of land, and saying and protecting African pastoralists, African small landholders, farmers, or peasants, and protecting African working class from these from what we might say is the elitist capture of different group of this elitist capture of so-called environmental justice. Because as we know right now, Israel's genocide against Gaza and against the Palestinian people right now, which is happening, it has a strong environmental component to it, because he's really, Salt has destroyed sewage plants in Gaza. It has uprooted trees. It has, and this has been happening since the birth of the Zionist state since 1948. And so we should be considerate of the colonialism, imperialism, and neocolonialism's real impact on environmental on Africa's ability to, and Africa and the third world's ability to peace to self-determine and to develop. And so we cannot separate environmental justice from the social justice of speaking out against Israel's real genocide against the Palestinians, which has been happening for some time now, but has only intensified since 2023 and 2024. We should be considerate of also the crackdown of the Sahrawi people's rights in Western Sahara by the Moroccan state. We must also be considerate of Rwanda's illegal incursions into Congolese land and creation of and funding of militias there. We should also be considerate of the Nigerian state's complicity with the corporations like Shell in creating real environmental damage for the Niger Delta communities. The destruction of their communities with oil, like in the search for exploration for oil. We should be considerate of all of that, and so it takes people. It really takes a Pan-African effort that creates a real sustainable development that is not is not hijacked by elitist or neoliberal concerns like elitist or neoliberal appropriation of environmental justice or to create an outcome that really reproduces harmful social relations. And so in closing, I guess I'd like to remind youth of their power and be aware of not only the real mechanisms that are used today, and to be aware of their real impact on the African peasants and the African working class. Yes, not only like it's joint implementation and carbon offsets, carbon credits, and like joint the development, like modified development projects that are funded by developed Annex A countries into Annex B countries, et cetera, et cetera. So please read up on the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement and all that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ansel, for such a powerful presentation on our topic for today. We highly recognize and highly appreciate your effort and time that you've taken to be with us during this August 2nd podcast on episode of Pan-African.
Thank you. Yeah, and unfortunately, my as you can plainly hear, from this past hour, my thoughts haven't been really, are as articulate as I would have wanted it. I would love to, revisit this topic, next month or next week, in the next coming weeks when I have something that's more planned and more structured that can, explicate, and expatiate on what I'm talking about.
I thank you so much. We highly appreciate your input, and it's such a wonderful thing that you really remember the roots, our Africa, Mother Africa. And be blessed and have a great afternoon, great evening, great night to all of us in Africa and diaspora. And thank you. Your host was myself, Meshak Mgangi. Thank you so much for attending.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.